we both saw Avatar: Way of the Water.
Right. I was washing dishes and, I had to throw on something. So I threw on Disney Plus and I'm like, I see Avatar down there. So I clicked on it. I've never seen it. I didn't see it in 2009. And I suspect I would have hated it if I watched it in 2009. Because if you think about like the era that we were in, we had like Coen Brothers movies that were just nailing it. You had Dark Knight. You had all the There Will Be Blood. All these movies that are just like killing it. And you're like, I'm too good for these like popcorn blockbusters. And so I think I would have been a little snooty about Avatar.
You had a lot to choose from back then.
You had a lot, but after this year of a lot of bad Marvel films and bad Marvel shows and bad Star Wars shows and Disney.
I was thinking about how funny
shovelware.
I was thinking how funny it is that they call it the volume. Or like that's exactly what it does. It produces volume.
So, watching Avatar 1, which the CGI is getting a little dated. It's not the best, and the story is obviously Dances with Wolves. But man, James Cameron, there's something about him. He knows how to. He knows how to film action. There was parts that really riveted me in Avatar 1. And ultimately, I don't think I hated it. I think that first one, even this one too. There's a lot you could just streamline, and he won't. And I think if I saw it in theaters the way it's meant to be seen as this kind of theme park experience, maybe I would have enjoyed it more. But I was like, oh, there's something here. So when people were saying like, oh, Way of Water is not that bad, I was like, okay, maybe I'll just see it in theaters. So I got my ticket and I went to see it because I had you have an opening. When you see an opening to go to the theater, you just take it.
You take it.
And
same with me.
And so I took it, and yeah, I thought it was good. I thought Way of Water was way better than I expected. Obviously, didn't make my top 5 or honorable mentions, but it's definitely a really good movie. If you can see in the theater, I would recommend you see it. I don't
in 3D
in 3D because James Cameron has such an attention to detail, and you can tell that I've seen 3D films before, and there's nobody who does it like him, where he adds the layers where they need to be. The focus is where it needs to be. Like it enhances the amusement park ride feeling of the movie. And yeah, I had a great time watching it. It was long. I did feel it. I felt the length in especially going from the second act to the third act. I was like, oh God, please. but it brought me back eventually because of how thrilling the last act is. But I did feel the length.
I actually thought I didn't feel the length so much, but part of it was because like I had the whole day off. Like I didn't need to rush back to anything. And I just knew, I was like, I'm going to go at an 11:30 screening and I'm going to be home at like 3. And I just kind of knew that, but, I also thought, so like the movie, for those who don't know, like in the first one, this, Earth American soldier becomes a Na'vi basically as a convoy mission. And then he ends up becoming part of their tribe, marries one of their women, and ends up fighting for them. So it's Dances with Wolves. That's what people mean. But it's being an outsider, becoming part of the tribe, and then fighting your former tribe, your former group, for their sake. So in this one, the bad guy from the,
I would say Sam Worthington really brings it in both movies, I would say.
I heard that it was supposed to have been Matt Damon originally, and they offered him $50 million, but he was doing Bourne Ultimatum and couldn't do it.
Oh boy. Well, I think that's for the best. I think Matt Damon would be, it takes away from kind of the experience. And the villain, he's one note, but he's very memorable. It's a great character actor. Really
Don't you think in the first one he was, I mean, that's ridiculous.
He's a little too Bush Cheney army guy.
It's from that era. Yeah, right.
Yeah, but
my daddy taught me to kill anything different than me.
Yeah, and like when they brought him back in the beginning, I was like, it's almost comical. It's almost desperate. Where it's
it still is, but it works.
It works in a way. And well, the funny thing is they reckon with that. So spoilers for the movie. Obviously,
we're spoilers from this point on.
But yeah, they they bring him back. They bring him back as a Na'vi.
Yeah.
They download his memories
because he died in the first one. But then it's one of those series where nobody can die. Because you can always just like re-upload people's memories and stuff to other bodies, and they're already set up this whole thing where you can just like change species. But yeah, so anyway, they're trying to smoke out Jake Sully, who now has a family of like 5 or 6 kids. Some are not directly his children, but that's his whole group there. And so they leave the forest and they go to basically like the island of Montanui from Moana. Like they go to essentially like a Polynesian island, like a village of like water Na'vi, who like their kids kind of have the upper hand because that's their area. That's they've adapted for the water and stuff. And so it really becomes, for a lot of the movie, the whole second act, really, it's about being like a new family in a new town, which is not something I expected.
And it's pretty effective, I would say.
Yeah.
And you spend a lot of time with these kid characters, and it's not annoying. Usually when somebody says, we're going to spend time with the kids of the main characters of the previous film, it's like, that sounds awful.
Yeah.
But
no, I thought and not only were the children all really strong, because there's like an oldest brother who's maybe like 15, 16. There's a younger brother who's maybe like 12, 13. There's a 14-year-old daughter who's actually played by Sigourney Weaver. And it's fascinating because I guess they never did reveal who her dad is, right? That's not.
No, it's still like a mystery box, but it's a mystery box that's not annoying because they don't like play it up.
And it's not critical to the plot anyway. But so this descendant of the Sigourney Weaver character from the first movie, this Na'vi, she's mocapped by Sigourney Weaver. So it's her voice and it's her facial performance. It can't be her body performance because the character really moves like an awkward 14-year-old girl. And I can't assume that like elderly Sigourney Weaver can move like that. So they figured something out.
I saw some behind the scenes where she's definitely acting younger, like with the mocap things on. But yes, they that's a digitally created character.
Yeah. But it's very, all what I'm trying to say is it's very impressive because it's fully realized. It's not like, I'm not distracted by like, I think an elderly person might be playing this.
Yeah. It's a great, compelling character too, with how it's performed and how it's,
yeah, they all have, there was complexity in this one, character complexity, which I thought the first one really lacked. And then who else? There's like a little one, little girl. There's a human kind of like preteen one that's like has joined the Na'vi, and it turns out he's actually the son of this kind of bad guy. Anyway, yeah, it's for me, the fact that it was grounded at the new island or whatever, and that a lot of the story takes place there, that somehow fixed the rhythm and tone of the movie. Like it gave it a setting to hold some roots in, where I didn't feel like, oh God, like if I tell you like, okay, 2 hours is spent like people just getting to know each other on a beach, you're like, wow, I'm going to feel the length. But for me, it went by quick.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny with the kind of Save the Whales aesthetic. It feels like a throwback to 90s or something.
Well, he is getting old, this guy.
But I thought it totally worked. And the family dynamic, you got Sam Worthington being the strong father, and you have what's her Gamora there? What's her name?
Oh, Zoe Saldana. Yeah,
Zoe Saldana. I think her performance is still really good, and she plays a great mother character. And it was like, and it's focused around the family. It's like I haven't seen this in a long time. Like it's just, like a family dynamic, and it's revered, and it's it's an unconventional family, obviously, but it's
You know what else impressed me? There was no MacGuffin in it.
Yeah.
Like there was even a MacGuffin in the first one. It was that unobtainium stuff.
Yeah, they kind of had like the whale oil stuff that like you're like,
but it didn't really factor into the plot.
Yeah, it doesn't factor in the plot. They just is like, hey, we can kill these big smart whales and get this oil. Cool.
It provided a motivation for why the bad guys would want to conquer these areas in the first place, but it wasn't like I've got to get to the oil, because if the oil falls into the wrong hands, it wasn't the whole thing. And
yeah, so many of these Disney things ultimately fall into that trap.
Like every single one. Like it's crazy. I just saw Puss in Boots, which I'll talk about, which was great. But it's everybody's chasing an item the whole time. I mean, like every fucking movie is chasing an item. I swear, like video games have ruined us.
Yeah, Sith Wayfinders and all sorts of stuff
every fucking time. But and 25 Infinity Stone movies, and I love Guardians of the Galaxy. But the whole thing is like the Power Stone can't fall into the wrong hands.
Yes.
The Tesseract can't fall into the wrong hands.
Yeah, and they do kind of add a little bit of complexity to the villain too, where you introduce this son character, and they reckon with the fact that he realizes he's not even the same guy. Like he knows he's like just an artificial clone of the guy. Yeah. He's like, I'm not your father. It's like it's no thing, but like it's interesting. It reckons with something. There's some complex thoughts there where I don't think the first one did.
Yeah. The first one, I just found it like tropey from beginning to end. And I mean, it wasn't like the worst thing ever. I saw it in theaters and was, I enjoyed the spectacle or whatever, but I was going into this pretty like, you fuckers aren't going to make me 13 years later go watch this for 3.5 hours. And it's like, yeah, like I'm going to what? I'm going to walk away going nice CG. Like it could be the nicest CG ever. I'm not going to, but
the CG was great.
It was,
he's got these guys fucking around in water some more.
But it still wasn't, for me, it wasn't the reason to see the movie.
No.
It supported the story, and that's really all I ever need from these things in the first place. What I really didn't expect, because I thought the first one was fairly low IQ, was I didn't expect for it to have like a pretty strong, characterizations and stuff. Much better than the first one. And I heard that, so James Cameron did write the first one by himself, and that was it. And he's got like a writing team now that has developed a whole Avatar Middle-earth kind of lore.
I think that helps. I think that helps completely. It feels like more of a lived-in universe now. It feels more like they thought about these characters. They thought about each of these kids. They thought about their outlooks and their personalities. It feels like a lot of thought went into this. So,
or he just wanted to shoot water shit again. He misses Titanic.
I mean, he did that too. he like did Titanic again, but it was good. Like the thing is,
Titanic's pretty good.
Titanic's good too. Yeah. But like the action, I think, is really well done. Mm-hmm. Like he attends to everything. Like I feel like I had a good sense of where everything was. I understood why things were, the landscape was changing as it was changing.
I thought the action was very well conducted. That's really what kept my eyes on the screen the whole time. Whereas, like again, for the first one, there was like a final hour of the first one that was just like kind of Michael Bayhem. And again, there's a lot of spectacle, and I'm sure a lot of people worked very hard to show me that chaos, but it's a lot of chaos, and I don't want to watch chaos. I want to understand what I'm watching. Even if there's a lot going on, like break it into pieces for me and carry me along for the ride, and do it through the eyes of characters. That's the most important thing.
Yeah. That you talk about your video about the Ride of the Rohirrim and stuff like that. And I felt that here, where they attended to every single character and you felt what they were feeling in each of those moments in the action.
Yeah. And so you have these kind of mini stories of like mini suspense where you're like, well, he needs to reach there before, cause this is what's at stake, cause this character is in peril, and okay, he can't save two people at the same time. And this is what he must feel because of the scene before. And so you're tracking all of the kind of emotional through lines of the character. That's when action works best, right? Not when things are just going fucking nuts with, in the first, I just remember like the bad guy with the coffee cup gets in a mech suit and he's going to punch you harder. Yeah, fuck off. But, so it was really good. I have a question from a, well, just to talk about the 3D for a second. I put on the 3D glasses and I was like, oh no, because I've been avoiding 3D screenings for the past 13 years, ever since the goddamn first one came out. And A, for the price, and B, because it cuts the light in half, basically. It's like it dims the screen. And so I put them on and I'm like, oh no, it's so dark. And then I realized, because of like the stereoscopic nature of it, like I couldn't focus. I couldn't achieve focus on a subject. And it took me maybe 25 minutes before my brain was like, all right, this is fine. It felt like using like the wrong controller for like a video game or something. It was like uncomfortable. But then that was really cool. It really did add a lot to it after that.
Yeah. I would say the most jarring thing for me was the high frame rate, which, was it just me? I thought it was like a very variable high frame rate. Like sometimes it was high frame rate and sometimes it wasn't.
I don't think my screening had it, because I would have noticed.
Okay. So
it was just 3D.
Okay. So I had high frame rate too. So either that, my eyes, like I'm not used to it. So I'd get like out of sync with it or something. Cause sometimes it looked like a normal movie, like 24 frames per second. And sometimes when like people started moving a lot, it looked high frame rate, they had that smooth motion feel. I
saw The Hobbit that way and I hated it. And I remember thinking that like it looked like it was sped up at times, and it did nothing for me. And so I'm glad I saw it in 24p.
Yeah, I don't think it added anything to it.
Right.
But it did take me a while to get used to that. I think the 3D was fine.
Yeah. So I mean, if somebody was wondering, excuse me, what the best way to see the movie is, probably 3D at the normal frame rate, right?
Yeah,
would be the recommended.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if they even specify that, but mine was definitely high frame rate.
Normies do not know, like frame rate or not frame rate on it. But I have here's just a funny technical question. I'm sitting there. I'm immersed in the 3D. There's little wispy willows and flies right in my eyes, and there's all this cool depth and shot to shot. And I'm thinking, like, isn't it funny that there hasn't, we've all been in like the cinema 4D, or we've been in the motion experiences or whatever, where they spin the chairs around. And I get that, like, that's probably not practical for standard movie theaters. But do you think that they would ever just install like a rumble pack, like on the armchairs, just like put your arms here?
Don't they in some of these cinema 4D? And they have like fogs and sprays, smell-o-visions.
That's the big premium experience. I'm wondering if there would be like a cheaper version where
cheaper version.
Just like when you play a video game now, it's totally expected that the controller in your hand is going to rumble when the video game rumbles. And I'm just wondering like why that's not like standard for theaters just yet. Like it feels like something maybe you could build into those armchairs. I don't know. Just a thought.
Yeah. And you could have like some like intern like trigger rumble packs in the code of the movie. Yeah, it'd be pretty easy. Just a thought. So that was Avatar: Way of the Water. I liked it. I recommend it. It was really quite cool. And I one last comment on that. I think if James Cameron, the powerful, the great, the almighty James Cameron, I think he could bring back the intermission if he wanted to. Oh yeah, definitely.
And I don't know why he didn't. Because he was saying stuff. He was like, hey, it's okay to go pee during my movie. It's not the end of the world. And I'm like, well, you probably don't want people missing those expensive effects shots, dude.
Well, I remember I saw Hateful Eight and was 70 millimeter or whatever it was. Yeah, 65 millimeter, whatever it is. And it was in the roadshow, and they had to actually change the reels, the big fucking reels of that film. Right. And there was an intermission, and I did pee during that intermission.
I remember it was too long. It went on for like 15 minutes. I was like, all we need is like 5. Yeah, just a quick.
Well, you had to have the projectionist haul that film off.
That is kind of awesome. Goddamn Tarantino.
But yeah, it's a great movie experience. I enjoyed it.